is Bhagavad Gita. So I've had the personal opportunity to be involved with interfaith groups. And when you meet people of varying faiths, faith leaders, it's very much a sharing experience. And you definitely do try to hit on the nail with the sense of commonality, how we are the same. And it's kind of a beautiful experience, because the way I see it, it's like Brahmins coming together. Just because somebody believes in something slightly different doesn't mean we can't sit down with them and listen to them. The reason for everyone coming together is for the purpose of Sangha. Sangha means association. That's the word that Prabhupada gave us. Association. People who are like-minded. And part of it is not being so like-minded, or where there are differences. Like, I've sat in rooms with atheists, and they can be very nice people. I've sat in a room with native spiritualists, Jewish people, Buddhist folks, Christians, and also Catholics, as well as Islamic folks, and sometimes people of other varying backgrounds. And it's always been a nice experience. We've Yeah, someone was trying to call, so I just undid them. Okay. So now, where we will be successful in our communication with people of different faiths, whether it's you in a room with a group of diverse backgrounds, persuasions, if you will, or if you're just talking to someone one-on-one who has a different belief system, we always have to maintain a sense of RESPECT, respect. You know, they may believe in something different than we do. We have to respect them. And the reason why they do believe in something different, they've been on a different journey. They've been on a different forest path than we have. So we should appreciate that. If I was walking on a trail and I found it kind of near like wetlands, it was muddy and potholes and, you know, water, pools of water everywhere. The person that I meet at the end of the trail who went on another trail, maybe he was on the highlands and it was dry, and his experience is a little different. But what was nice is that we came together. We were both on trails and we came together. One thing that we must take note of is that Krishna accepts diversity. Even in the Gita, sometimes he says, this is my opinion. I'm saying this to you, and this is my opinion. He tells Arjuna, his student. So that means that Krishna accepts that there's different scholars out there, different ways of thinking. And there's no reason why there can't be some kind of inclusiveness. Inclusiveness is a great virtue. And I think that this is something that is a mark of saintly, like, trait for a Vaishnava. A saintly person is to recognize that someone's a little different in their way of thinking. Even amongst Vaishnavas, we sometimes interpret lines. Can you not hear me? Can you hear me okay? Okay.
It's fine.
Okay. So sometimes devotees interpret things quite differently. And they'll say, Prabhupada said this, da 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 da. And then the other person says, yeah, but I understand it to be something a little different. I'll tell you an interesting thing that I encountered a few years back. I used to visit Yamuna. Everybody knows Yamuna, the God sister sings Govinda. She did so many wonderful things. I used to visit at her house at Sharnagati in British Columbia, Canada. And she and Dina Tarini, her Vaishnav partner, they had just been to a reunion of the devotees. It was a 40-year reunion of the devotees at the manor in the Bhaktivedanta Manor in the UK. And everyone who was senior, a Prabhupada disciple, pretty much most people, had a chance over a few days to go over pastimes of Prabhupada that they had with him in the UK when he was first there and when the devotees started the mission. And then, frankly, Yamuna and Dina Tarini were saying after they returned, said, you know, we went to this event and we were a little bit concerned about devotees telling stories that were not computing with our stories, that the details were different from what we recall. And then they asked me, you know, I'm junior to them, but they asked me humbly, so what do you think about that, Maharaj? And I said, well, yes, perhaps because of the aging factor, people are forgetting things. And plus, when we were young, we perceive things very differently. And so when stories are told about something that happened 4 decades earlier, they may come out in diverse ways. And that's okay. I just offered to say, it seems to me it's all right if the details are not totally correct. But what is important is to establish the mood. The mood is what is important. The spirit is what is important. So when we're talking with different people of very faiths, they may have the details different than our details, but the mood or the spirit should be the same. And that is to serve, and that is to show compassion, and to be in the spirit of love, giving, those kind of things. This is what brings everyone together. And so we discussed that. I discussed it with the 2 God sisters and 3 other devotees that were there. Sometimes we see that with Shastra, like the Mahabharata may tell one side of the story of how the war ended, and then, or the events happening thereafter. And then the Bhagavatam, which is supposed to be a graduate study of the Mahabharata, tells something slightly different. But generally the spirit is the same. The spirit is what counts. The mood, the intent. So if we look at our Bhagavad Gita, in the introduction, Prabhupada speaks about a woman, an American woman, who was saying that, Swamiji, why is there a need for another translation of the Bhagavad Gita? There are so many already out there. And when Prabhupada was with us, there were already hundreds of translations. But then Prabhupada did say something to the lady, to the woman. He said, there is a need to discredit some commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita because they do not carry the spirit of the Bhagavad Gita, right? The mood is not captured, and therefore some translations or commentaries are rendered useless. So it's the mood that's important. And you'll find sometimes Christian people, for instance, or Jewish people, or people of other faiths, they've got a right mood, a mood of service to each other. They're very kind, and that should be a common trait. Like the Dalai Lama, he once said that my kindness is my religion, kindness. And of course, we accept that. But we have so much more to offer in our Vedas. Now, I think to be very introspective about looking at the different faith groups, we must turn to some of the pages of chapter 17 in Bhagavad Gita. And I say that because just like much of Krishna's teachings, he's telling Arjuna to filter everything through the three modes of nature. The three modes of nature are goodness, passion, and ignorance. In Sanskrit, Sattva-guna, Rajaguna, and Tamaguna. And to be very, let's say, so that we don't stay totally naive, we must look at people's motives. Like, say, for instance, if you look at the mode of goodness, what are the qualities of goodness? Thoughtfulness. We can find some of this in chapter 16. 26 qualities are there. But in general, thoughtfulness, kindness, gentleness, etc. Things like that, being introspective, cultivating knowledge, and taking your time to say something before you say it, processing things very carefully before you talk or before you act. That's in the mode of goodness. And in the mode of passion, the motive is, well, what am I going to get out of this? Usually it's driven by the kama principle, the sex drive. And you move fast, but you might get into an accident when you're moving fast. So it becomes a messy situation. And that's a characteristic of Rajagun. In Tamagun, there's sluggishness, slothfulness, lazy, lethargy, not giving the opportunity of the brain to operate successfully, but just going on feeling. And it can also be very destructive. These are some of the qualities or traits in the mode of ignorance. So when we look at purposeful intents, when we use that word mindfulness, it means to be very much in the mode of goodness. And some people who follow spiritual paths are very mindful. They're very conscientious. And then you have some people who follow different faith groups, and they have an intent to be very deal-oriented with God. God, I've been nice to you, so you should repay me. There should be a nice deal going on here. I scratch your back, you scratch my back. And I understand you're the order supplier of everything. Everything comes from you. So great, I've been your good son, your good follower. You are my father, so give me, give me, give me. And that seems to be the mood and the atmosphere in the Rajagun, looking for material goods. In the Vedas, we sometimes can consider actions in the mode of goodness. Sometimes we say it means to worship demigods, but it depends on why you're going to the demigods. Some devatas you go to ask for spiritual progress. Some people go to the gods and goddesses to ask for, hey, I want a nice wife, or I need a nice husband, or I'm very ill right now, sun god, please cure me, help me, I've got COVID, whatever. So these are motives that we can find in the mode of passion. When it comes to the mode of goodness, there's definitely a darkness there and an ignorance. And the motive or intent then will be something like, I do not like this person that I'm working with, and I really want to see him destroyed. No, that kind of evil-mindedness does lurk in people. They sometimes ask for God or follow a path which will help to hinder the development of somebody else. Usually jealousy is behind it. I can think of somebody like Duryodhana. He's quite a character. And he wished for the Pandavas to be extinguished. He had that kind of motive, that kind of intent. And he also didn't hold back on his word. He told about his uncle Vidura. He said, he reminded him, "You're the son of a maidservant. What are you? Who are you to say anything?" So with that, Vidura decided, "I'm leaving. I don't need to take this. This is nonsense." And definitely it was in the mode of ignorance. So we're encouraged to filter everything through the mode of ignorance. So look at what some people eat. People eat a lot of fatty foods and they get fat. And no offense against some people, but we should try to stay healthy, and eat the foods that are nutritious and that are healthy. Like, say, for instance, if you take a lot of white sugar, it's not in the mode of goodness. No way it's in the mode of goodness. It's on the top of the charts for the worst food that exists on the planet. White sugar, processed sugar. There are others that are real bad. Various forms of pastas and pizzas because of the nature of the cheese and the lot of tomatoes that tend to put inflammation into your system, and then the white flour. So these are foods that have become extremely popular with people, but they do not help you with your spiritual life. So we do have to look at our diet. So if we do, say, meet with people who come with a different intent, that is more along the lines of the mode of ignorance, which is tamas or rajas, we still should not become so judgmental and maintain a kind of a respect for them, because gradually they will make progress. You cannot criticize somebody who just went into the shower, half of the dirt is off, half of the smell is gone. And if someone comes in, "You're dirty, you're smelly, you're stinky." But, hey, I'm in the shower. I'm going through the process. I'll get clean. When I get clean, I'll come out the door and I'll have you smell under my armpits. So you see, the thing is that time is required. Time is on your side, so that you can get to that stage of rajas, and then sattva, and then finally pure goodness. So we can't be too judgmental. We have to maintain respect for all. That's for sure. And that's when there will be a nice flow of dialogue, a good flow of wisdom will come, and everyone benefits then. From a call coming in. Okay, so yes, our business is not to have confrontations with people. Our business is to respect what people have done. What sometimes hurts is that if you know a Vaishnava and they were doing quite good, and this happens sometimes, they decide to pull out of the faith, out of Krishna Bhakti, and they go to Jesus Bhakti, or they go to Allah or something like that. I mean, sometimes we have situations like that. Or I've heard of some of our young people, they become atheistic, which is really quite prominent now, where people end up going into sort of like a Zen Buddhist frame of existence. And it kind of hurts us because we feel, oh, we lost a family member. But maybe they feel comfortable in another framework, and we should respect that to some degree. We may pray that they may come around again, because frankly, Krishna consciousness. It's very sublime. And Krishna himself states in the Gita that there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. He also says that everyone surrenders unto me. Everyone comes to me ultimately. Like there's a saying that all roads lead to Rome. Okay, so get on the road. Some people are not on the road. I remember on my first walk across Canada, I came to this town called Collingwood, population maybe 12,000, not very big, a pretty little city. And two newspaper journalists came. They came at the same time. And they were asking the standard questions. Why are you walking? What's it for? How long is it going to take you? How many pairs of shoes do you wear? And what's it for? Blah, 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 blah. And then I answered their questions. And then one of the journalists said, from one newspaper said, well, what about other faiths? I mean, what do you say about other, what's your opinion about other leanings towards other religions? And the other journalist who was listening, he said from the other newspaper, he said, yeah, I was going to ask that same question. So they were very curious about that. So then I said, well, listen, I'm not here to convert anybody. I'm just here to stay on common ground. I'm just saying, let's walk, let's take care of ourselves, let's promote the walking culture, and let's get connected to our spiritual side, regardless of what is your denomination. So they like that. And sincerely, that's what I was going for. That was my motive on the walk. Of course, I'd be happy if someone would come and just join and say, hey, I want to shave up, I want to wear dhoti and kurta, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, those things don't come so easy these days, especially. So I think that dialogue with Brahmins is very important. The other day, about a week and a half ago, I was walking with a fellow. He was training to be a rabbi. And we had a good talk. I felt like he's like a god brother. And I think he felt like that about me as well. The beauty of, say, Brahminical people coming together is that they have dialogue. That means you hear carefully, do reflective listening on what someone has said. You exercise Shravanam Kirtanam. So hear what someone has to say, then you may repeat what they're saying, and you may, from your own scripture, quoting Bhagavad Gita or the Vedas in general, just to support what that person may be saying. And if they say something quite different, well, just appreciate, okay, they're coming from a different mode of existence, and they're gradually rising up to some level of, ultimate perfection. So that's what we have to do. We have to appreciate anybody's trying to do something spiritual. It's rare. Manushanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhai yatatam apisedanam kaschid mam vedi tattvataha. So out of 1,000 karmis, people are engaged in karmic work. 1 out of 1,000, one will get philosophical, be like a jnani. And out of 1,000 jnanis grouped together, one will get serious about devotional life and really give their whole heart to Krishna. So it's kind of rare for people to engage in spiritual activities. So it's cherishable when you are in their company. I really personally like it. But I'll tell you another story. I don't know if I relate this to this group. It happened on my walk across the US. And I was in Ohio, and a man, Sunday morning, beautiful sunny day. It was getting a little bit humid, but Lake Erie was nearby. We swam every day. I was in May, late May. And so anyways, the guy pulls over. He says, because of my robes, I guess, do you speak English? I said, yes, I do. And actually he was somewhere from the Middle East. I could tell by his accent. So I said, well, I just was wondering if I could share something with you. I said, well, sure, I don't mind. What is it you want to say? Well, here, it's this book. And he gave me the New Testament. So actually, I have that book, and I have it in my support vehicle that's with me. I'm doing this walk across the US, but I have it, and I've looked at it, and I enjoy it very much. And I leaned over on his car by the windows of his. I was saying that, you see, I believe that there are a lot of similarities amongst the faith groups. And I believe there's more similarities and parallels than there are differences. So I think people coming from different backgrounds need to reflect on the similarities more than the differences. So he thought about it and he said, yes, there are some similarities, but the differences are very important. He almost got like challenging me, The differences are very important. And then he, knowing a little bit about what I believe in from somewhere, did some research, said, and Vishnu is not God. So he started to attack me, like verbally attack by saying Vishnu is not God. He's a false prophet, blah, blah, blah. He went on. And I said, okay, excuse me, sir, but I'm going now. But I just have one thing to say. I hope you enjoy meditating on the wall that you just created between us. Have a good day, and God bless. So I walked away, and that was it. I just couldn't tolerate the blasphemy. So as long as people coming from different backgrounds show some kind of reverence and demonstrate etiquette, then I think they deserve to be heard. And we can lend an ear to what they have to say also. So in some families, we have people who have come from different backgrounds. Some people are, so I was raised Catholic. I had friends who were Protestant. What was the big deal? Right before I became a devotee, I had a girlfriend, and she was Baptist, but I was Catholic. Well, we didn't let that get us in the way. We were both believed in Jesus, so it was no problem. In fact, Jesus very much comes across like a nice Vaishnava, a true saint, and so there is not a problem. We like to create problems. Human beings are good at conjuring up trouble, and we're very good at it. One doesn't need to be there. So wars have been created between the Vatican and with the Protestants. I mean, Martin Luther, he was a priest, and he was raising some objections about the ways of his mother church. And so the mother church didn't like it, and they gave him a hard time. So there's no need for that kind of stuff. If somebody has something to say, they object. Sometimes they come across harsh. Oh, we don't need to. I remember when we were talking about Ritvikism, some devotees were very strong, extreme, right-wing, like Ritvik proponents. And then there was the very swing over to the other way, let's say, honor, give, like, over the top kind of glory to the current gurus. And there was a meeting, and everyone was just like practically mudslinging at each other. There was no room for, let's say, sitting down at a couch and having some smoothies and in a round circle, talking over things and, agreeing and disagreeing. So, I mean, there's going to be disagreements like they are between husband and wife. That's natural. Between Radha and Krishna, there's differences, but you go on and build up on what is paralleling you both. I would say that people of different faith groups should not have a problem. They should be very open-minded. And that was my experience with journalists. They're quite open-minded. Whereas sometimes I'd meet somebody, they'll pull over and say, okay, do you believe in Jesus? They said, oh, I sure do. I said, well, why aren't you following him? Well, I am. And then you can't win with those kind of people. There's just confrontation. So where there's confrontation, there will be, let's say, a blockage of wisdom flow. The wisdom, jnana, will not penetrate in such circumstances. So that's just kind of the way it is. And that's what. How are we doing for time, by the way? 2 minutes left. Okay, good. So we've spoken a few things. I would like to just share with you from chapter 17 some of what I was talking about to help us understand that there are different intents, there are different motives, okay? And we shouldn't be blind to that. We should never say it's all one, we're all the same. Okay, yeah, there's oneness, but there's also some difference. And like the gentleman that I met on the road, the differences may be important, but it's not what we want to build up on, okay? So chapter 17, text 2. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Trividha Bhavati Shraddha Dehinam Sa Swabhavaja Satviki Rajasi Chaiva Tasmasi Chititam Shrinu. And translation, Bhagavan said, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of 3 kinds: in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance. Now, hear about this. So we can look at people's drive or their intention, and we can appreciate that everyone's taking a different road, a different path, because of the intent. It's different. And just like there are 3 different kinds of foods, I met a man yesterday in the park. He said, oh, please don't come near me because we have to do social distancing. And besides, I just took some onions and some garlic. He said, oh, okay. He said, why don't you take onions and garlic? He asked me. And I said, because there are 3 different types of foods. And one is the type that let's say, enhances your lower nature. And then there's that type of food that enhances your higher nature. So basically, they're broken up into 3 different categories: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And he was listening very intently. So food goes in these categories. The way you dress goes in categories. The state of your automobile goes in categories. Say you have a real clunker, a real lemon for a car, and it makes all kinds of, it's a gas guzzler, and it spews out all this bad air, and it's got holes in the exhaust, so it makes a lot of noise. And you can, when you're inside, you can see there's holes in the floor. You can see the pavement underneath moving. I've been in a car like that. Yeah, so you judge everything by its mode, or what we call guna. So where we will advance rapidly is in our ability to be quite open, and in our discussions, and try to share, try to understand what someone's saying, but also very much keep in mind that while we can respect, we also must look at what is the motive, what is the drive. And for many of us, some faith groups, they actually accept that it's all right to eat animals, correct? Like in the Vedic system, you want to eat animals, you're allowed to eat a goat, But before you slaughter the goat. First of all, you should slaughter it, say. And you say something in Sanskrit, you, me. That means I'm taking your life. In the future, you'll take my life. So it's tit for tat, you know. It's this or that. I mean, we are going to suffer some consequences for taking to lower modes of activities. And definitely eating animal body parts are not as evolved as eating the vegetation that goes through less pain. Yeah. So this is filter everything through the three modes. We're supposed to do that. That is shastrically right. Shastra chakshu. See everything through the eyes of Shastra. So some scriptures don't go so deep, and others do penetrate a little bit more. We want to thank Srila Prabhupada for giving us the very penetrating words of wisdom found in Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna. So I guess we can open up for questions. Is that right? Can we do that now?
Yes, Maharaj.
So technically you can do whatever you need to do to make it so that I can hear the questions.
There is one comment from YouTube. Vegavati Mataji is watching on YouTube.
Oh yes, I have so much respect for her. Yes.
She says, I'm here watching and happy to be hearing. Thank you, Maharaj.
Oh, thank you. It's a comment. That's called Sangha. Even though we're doing it virtually, it's Sangha. And would you say, did I say anything that was off the mark, Bhagavati Mataji?
She has to type it in.
Okay, well, that's okay. We don't mind typing in. That's fine. So I always find it very interesting. I like mixing with people of different faith groups. And I don't have a problem with it. So sometimes when you meet people who are of the same faith, like sometimes Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we run into them in Vrindavan or something. And what is that causes dissension sometimes when they try to steal some of our people to their side, or we steal from them. I think we should just respect what's going on. And we just need to carry on with a staunch form of sadhana and really show our integrity. When you show integrity, then people get enthused. Say, I want to be like that person. I want to follow that person. I'd like to get a little more, get a piece of that action and be with that person, and so on like that. So that's important. It's important.
Vegavati Mataji typed, not a chance.
All right. Okay. Not a chance. I sometimes say things that are wrong. I'm guilty, I'm sure. Because I'm not perfect. I'm not Bhagawan. Far from it. Bhagawan Das, servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. SPG, Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm God's servant. I mean, you see, Krishna created people with different minds. And the different religions are also coming from them. And that is simply to make room for people who feel comfortable in these different scenarios. So there isn't one way. We know that Vyasadeva created the Veda. He had Vedas, one Veda. And then he realized that he had to create more Vedas, 4 Vedas, so that to accommodate different people coming from different motives. So it's a Vedic principle to have different approaches. It's not one way. It's not one way.
Maharaj, this is Hare Krishna.
How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Since you are the drama guru, could you illustrate a conversation, a typical conversation with a person from a different faith? A small illustration is fine.
So are you talking about having a conversation with somebody who's confrontational?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, so shall we talk about the most common one that I've experienced?
Yes,
Okay.
Maharaj.
It depends. If I see somebody wants to listen, then I'll spend time. Otherwise, I won't. Like somebody will come to me, what about Jesus? And I can play stupid. You mean like Jesus, like Limburger, mozzarella, Philadelphia? Jesus. No, Jesus. Yeah, I eat Jesus. No, So if I use the kind of approach when I can understand they don't. I met a couple of Jehovah's Witness ladies. This is in the French part of Canada. They're speaking English. They came to meet middle-aged ladies. They were wearing dresses, and kind of like brought me to the 50s again. Anyways, they were asking me questions. Says, what are you doing? What do you believe in? Says, we believe in God. Said, oh, great. And do you believe in the Son of God? Yes, I believe in the Son of God. Actually, God's our Father, right? So that means we're all sons of God. You and me and this person, that person, crossing the street, we're all sons of God. And then I can understand their questions were kind of loaded. They wanted to trap me in some way. And I was going real smooth. I was keeping the answers really very generic. And then they came to one point where they really wanted to find out how I'm different. And because I'm different, I should not be accepted. And that I'm probably a member of I follow false prophets and so on like that. And I'm to be discarded, dismissed. So they found their little question that I didn't answer verbatim to their philosophy. So therefore they rejected me on the spot. No. They had the body language. No. I went like this and this. Okay, well, what can you do like this? God bless. I have to keep walking. Hare Krishna. So that's one scenario, right? But if somebody's sincere and they believe in the teachings of Jesus and they want to hear about compare notes with Krishna, they'll be pleasantly surprised. We have a lot in common. And then you can talk. A lot of people have developed a culture where you don't listen anymore. We have those examples in our society. That's very uncomfortable, being in those situations.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is Mandalaram.
Well,
ask a question?
Yes.
So in the chapter in the Bhagavad Gita that talks about the three modes of material nature, we find someone who performs bhakti yoga, or devotional service, that they actually transcend the three modes of material nature. So with regards to that, us as devotees were practicing devotional service, and I guess still seems that we are affected by the three gunas. And I guess when do we actually come to that stage of being transcendental to them or liberated from the reactions, or I guess the three modes of material nature? I don't know if you can expand on that.
Yes, well, here's a nice verse that I think everyone can learn. It's chapter 14, which is about the three modes of material nature, and it's text 26. Man chio vyabhicharina bhakti yogena sevate sagunan sivatatyaithan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Translation: one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Okay, so that's a general statement. Full devotional service. How do you find full devotional service? Well, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that first and foremost, sadhu sangha, sarva shastra kai. So everything begins with good association. with people who are full in their Krishna consciousness. We know when we hear that saying from people, oh, that guy's really full of himself, right? You hear that saying sometimes, full of himself. Meaning it's all about him. It's just ego, bragging, like anything like that. So when you're full of yourself in Krishna consciousness, it means that it's all about Krishna. And I'm a servant. And to get that, pick up on that spirit, that mood, be in the good company of individuals, then you will experience transcendence. Trigunya Vishaya Veda, Nishtraigunya Paparjana. So that means that most people are interested in riding on the waves of the Vedas, which means the modes of material nature. The way Vedas mostly embrace the three modes of nature. That means different kinds of worship, different kinds of religions. But Krishna is actually saying, Trigunya Vishaya Veda, Nishtraigunya Paparjana, Arjuna, rise above them, get beyond that. And so how do you do that? Keep busy in Krishna service. Like practically it means morning and evening, look at some Shastra, read something that you will, in a very cherishable way, you can embrace those words and put it into practice for the rest of the day. Then before you go to sleep for your 6 or so hours of ignorance, just some or other, increase the chances of having a good dream about Krishna. And you do that by reflecting on some Shastra or some pastime. We enjoy reading about Krishna before we go to sleep, where I am. And I think this just fill up your cup, which has a pure milk, some milk in it. Fill it up so full, there's no room for Maya. So if you put a drop of black ink in there, it'll spill over. Like there's absolutely no capacity for Maya to come in. And that's what we want. How to get that? Just be in good company. Read, listen, pick up on the spirit of devotion from others. See from nature how dedicated the robin is. The robin, I think the male and female both bring the worm and they feed their young out of the nest after they cracked open out of their blue eggs. So see how dedicated they are. See how full they are in their mission to survive and have their young thrive. Yes. So you can get inspiration from other people, like who are very determined. People can get very, very inspired just by looking at some of their political leaders and say, what? He said that, or she said that, and he did this. I can't believe our political leaders are doing these things. And one thing you can admire is that, wow, they're so committed. They're so sincere about their conviction. Yeah, so inspiration. Pick up on the spirit of things. The spirit is important. Let's look at another verse. Nabudi. Page 3. Chapter 3 from Bhagavad Gita. Nabudi. It was 26. Another 26. Okay, so please flip to your pages, folks. And this, in many ways, can sum up our message for today. 26, chapter 3. Nabudi Bedam Janayet Agyanam Sarva Sanginam Joshiyat Sarva Karamani Vidvan Yukta Samachana. So as not to disrupt the minds of ignorant men or women attached to the fruitive results of prescribed duties, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. Like I find it really helps to be around with positive people, optimistic people. Enthusiasm is a major key. Associate with those people, apply your enthusiasm to spiritual life. Utsava is the word. And you'll be okay. You'll be able to transcend. Any other questions?
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
I hope it helps.
Yeah, I really like that point of reading. I totally notice a difference if I, read before bed and my chanting in the morning. It really is surcharged with, I guess, that synergy that you get from those activities. So thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Mandala, for your excellent question. And now it is, we have 3 or 4 more minutes and to go. And I hope everyone's taking a little time to pray for the health of Bhakti Churu Maharaj, who's has COVID-19 positive, and people from all over the world are praying for his well-being, his recovery, that it will be quick. I don't know the latest, but the last I heard he was doing a little better. So as Vaishnavas, let's say entities of compassion, let us pray for him and his well-being. I can't imagine ISKCON without people like him. Hare Krishna. Maybe we could say Hare Krishna real loud together on his behalf. 1, 2, 3, go. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you. So I just want to thank our host, that's Vaishnavi and Anantashish, for getting us on. And it's a pleasure. We're doing something every Thursday. Yes, Thursday at around this time.
Haribo! Very nice putting up the verses also. That was a really nice service. While you're recording the verses, Maharaj, she was
Yes,
putting them
I
up on the
saw
screen.
that. Who did that?
I did that, Maharaj.
Who?
I did that, Maharaj.
Yeah, thank you. Our host did so. Thank you so much. Give regards to everybody that is in Ottawa, Alachua. I'm not sure who else got on board, but
The big city of Alachua, Maharaj.
the big city of Alachua. I miss you, Prabhus. I wish I was there. I came a year ago. Yeah, it was beautiful. All right. We missed the alligators. Hare Krishna. Srila
Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna, Maharaj. Jai!
How do we end it?
Get it to it.